So, general poll question: are pastors allowed to wear backward hats, or does this communicate punk, not pastor? Ken deals with how you grew up, right? Carolyn, oh, friend, it was so fun working with you yesterday in Solid Grounds. Thanks for being awesome. Good morning, Jordan. Oh, it's fun watching that little one grow. Barb, Jack, Elena, school's out for summer. Good morning, Brian and Gail. Morning, Bart. Morning, Doug. Guys, if you don't know who Doug Forrell is, you need to. Two, pray for that guy. He has to work with me all the time, put up with me all the time, hear my harebrained ideas all the time, my wacky schedules all the time. Like, oh, good morning, Jim. Oh, guys, this is going to be so much fun. We're going to have the best summer together. We're having a little family meeting with the kids here in a little bit, which we have family meeting PTSD because you don't call a family meeting unless something's wrong, right? Which is a terrible failure on our part as young parents. But just learning like, okay, having these check-in points, we're going to set kind of our temperature for the summer. What's everybody expecting? What's everybody wanting? How can we make some things happen? And how can we just from the beginning just set up and go, I don't know if that's possible. And so working through those things, because ultimately I think what ends up happening is when we fail to communicate, always failure to communicate leads to assumptions. And so Lynn and I were talking about this, that oftentimes our judgmentalness, we kind of think of in terms of we judge people as right or wrong. Maybe that's part of it, but in reality, judgmentalness is kind of going on all the time. It's what causes you when somebody cuts you off in traffic to say, hey, honk your horn, shame them, give them this look. But then on the flip side of that, when you do it, you have your reason, right? You're in a hurry, or you've got to pick up kids, or they don't know what kind of day you've had. It's been so hard, or you're just kind of distracted. I had this experience the other day. I'm going to be transparent. I ran a red light and totally by God's grace was safe and everything like that. But I just wasn't paying attention. My mind was somewhere else. I was thinking about something else. And this gentleman pulled up next to me, and at first he's like, kind of like, I think he was saying some words that I don't quite understand. They were either in Spanish or they were four-lettered. Not totally positive there, but I just looked at him and just said, sorry. And his demeanor completely came down, and he actually ended up giving me a thumbs up. And I'm glad it was this finger and not a different one. And it got me thinking about, man, how often have I just drove off thinking like, oh, they're inconsiderate, they're rude. What, did they not see me? Were they not thinking about me? And the truth is, yeah, they probably didn't see me, and they weren't thinking about me because they were distracted. Because I get distracted. We all do. And so with that miscommunication, with that assumption of what other people want or what other people are thinking or what their motive was, that sometimes I think the best question we can just ask somebody is, hey, what do you expect? Like, what are you looking for? What are you hoping for? What are you processing today? Like, maybe that's a conversation for you and your spouse today, just going, hey, what do you hope this week looks like? And you may find a lot of clarity. And as Brene Brown says, she's a doctorate in the area of shame, has a doctorate in the area of shame and how it impacts our brains and our souls and our social activity and sociology. Says that most often, to be clear is kind, and kindness is clarity. To just make things understood. This is what I'm hoping for. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I would desire, and not through veiled comments or innuendos or, hey, what about this, that actually just kind of breeds some bitterness in us, but that we instead would be able to be open and honest and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm experiencing. This is what I'm walking through. And what that does is that removes layers, that removes veils, that allows us to feel like we're seen and known, even if we don't get the right answer, even if we don't get the answer we want, that we at least know that we've been heard and understood, and we're able to come to some sort of compromise or understanding. And so the question that we try to ask at the end of every conversation is, have you felt seen and have you felt loved? And most often you can't feel those two things unless you've been listened to. And so today, how can you listen? Because ultimately that's what God does with us, right? Like the entire Psalms is us being asked to cry out to God. That Jesus teaches his disciples to pray. That means that God has ears, that he wants to hear our voice. That we're told in both 1 Peter and Philippians to with our anxiety, to bring them before the Lord, to pray. That Hebrews tells us that we're able to go into the inner sanctuary, past the veil, into the courts, into the throne of grace, to make our petitions known, to lay them there. That constantly God is in a position that though he could speak and create light, speak and create oceans, that his word carries that much power. The sound of his voice, he chooses to be, when God chooses to be silent, it's maybe because he's choosing to listen, to make space for our voice. And when I feel heard by God, it's weird how I'm able to listen to others. And so I just want to encourage you with that today. I want to be praying for you as well. If you want to shoot me your prayer requests, some of you have been doing that, and it's been awesome just to get to know you. It was so fun being in Solid Grounds and talking with many of you yesterday, to be back together. I do want to tell you that while we have removed the requirement of a mask, we haven't removed the requirement of being patient and kind with others. The Galatians 5 tells us that in our freedom, not to use that for an opportunity to gratify the flesh, but in love serve one another. We know that there are some of us that don't feel comfortable yet, but we want you to feel comfortable with us. And so you are welcome to continue wearing your face covering. You're welcome to continue to say, I'm just not there yet. I'm still a little concerned about my autoimmune disease, because in this lack of judgmentalness, rather than assuming why you're wearing that mask, we just want to serve you while you wear it. We want to help you. We want to make you feel as comfortable and as safe as you possibly can, that you might grow in the grace and knowledge of God. And so I'm praying for that for you today as you experience that. God, thank you so much that you've given us another week, another day, another breath of life, another moment to praise you, to do it together, to do it in a way that hopefully resembles your son, Jesus. We long to be disciples. We long to live and walk and think and talk in the lifestyle of Jesus. So God, we know that your word tells us we've been given the mind of Christ. Help us to think that way. God, I know that you're molding our hearts to be conformed to the image of your Son. Help us to act that way. Father, I know that you say that we are beloved, that we are your children, that we are redeemed and forgiven. And so God, help us to grasp and contemplate that, to understand it more deeply and more fully today. And help us, Lord, in the presence of others, not to be anxious, but to be a non-anxious present, not to be someone who stirs up strife, but that we would be peacemakers, to be those that not look to be served, but say, how can I serve you? And maybe the best way we do that, God, is that we would listen. Help us to be attentive listeners. Thank you for listening to us. And it's in your Son's name I pray. Amen. Love you guys. Praying for you. Pray for me.
Bye.
Hat hair. It's summer.